The crack of a flawless shot rang through the elite shooters club, followed instantly by thunderous applause from wealthy patrons in designer gear. Blake Radcliffe lowered his custom Remington with a smirk, the target revealing yet another bullseye. This was his domain, a place where money, skill, and power formed a wall that kept the elite safe from ordinary people. If you've ever been overlooked or made to feel invisible, you'll want to stay for what came next, the moment that changed everything. At America's most prestigious shooting range, Emma Miller lingered near the entrance, clutching her worn leather purse. Her plain blue cardigan and department store jeans marked her as out of place, a lone dandelion in a rose garden. At 35, she was too old to draw stares and too unremarkable to command respect here. The receptionist, immaculate in blonde waves and a rehearsed smile, glanced up, then down again, dismissing Emma with barely a flicker of attention. "Excuse me," Emma said softly. "I'd like to register for today's open practice." The receptionist scanned her from shoes to ponytail, then replied flatly, "Membership cards only." Emma drew a slow breath and produced a crinkled envelope. "I have a day pass." It was a gift. Across the room, Blake noticed. At 42, he was at the peak of his career, 5-time national champion, Olympic gold medalist, and poster face of Remington's luxury line. His family's oil wealth had bought him world-class training from childhood. Raw talent had done the rest. "Well, well," Blake called, his voice loud enough to turn heads. "Looks like someone took a wrong turn on the way to Walmart." His companions laughed on cue, all eyes shifting to Emma as she headed for the basic range, gaze fixed on the floor. Rebecca Johnson, the club's manager and once a competitive shooter herself, frowned at the remark but stayed silent. Emma found a lonely spot at the far end. She set her purse on the shelf and unwrapped a cloth bundle, revealing a Glock 19, serviceable, but humble beside the custom masterpieces around her. Blake and his friends drifted closer, amused. $10 says she can't even hit the target, one joked. Blake scoffed. "Make it 10,000. I bet she's never touched a gun." He sauntered over. "Excuse me, he said, mock polite. "Are you sure you're in the right place? This isn't a knitting circle." Emma looked up at him. Hazel eyes steady, unflinching. For a moment, Blake faltered. "I'm just here to practice," she replied quietly. "Practice?" Blake grinned. "Sweetheart, this is for serious shooters. 10 grand says you can't hit a bullseye from 50 yards. Emma's face stayed calm, though something flickered in her eyes. "I don't have that kind of money. If by some miracle you make the shot, I pay. If you miss, you leave, for good. Deal?" Rebecca had drifted closer, concern etched on her face. "Mr. Radcliffe, perhaps we should let our guest practice." "Stay out of it, Rebecca," he cut her off, never looking away. "Just a friendly wager." Emma's fingers brushed her wedding band, a simple gold circle. She twisted it once, a tiny movement only the sharpest observer would notice. "All right," she said. Blake's eyebrows shot up, then smoothed into a triumphant smirk. "Excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got a show." No one noticed the shift in Emma's posture as she lifted her Glock, spine straight, shoulders relaxed, feet balanced. No one recognized the expert grip, the calm breathing. No one guessed that the plain gold ring had once belonged to a SEAL Team 6 legend. 3 years earlier, Emma had stood beneath a gray April sky, the honor guard's rifles cracking through the stillness at Arlington Cemetery. The folded flag pressed against her chest had seemed heavier than stone as her husband's casket was lowered. Master Chief Nathan Miller, 15 years of service, a sniper so skilled his peers called him the Ghost. Officially, he died in a helicopter crash on a classified mission. Emma knew the truth was buried deeper. They had met in Burlington, Vermont, Nathan visiting an injured teammate, Emma living her quiet accountant's life. A spilled coffee turned into hours of conversation. 6 months later, they were married in a modest ceremony, his teammates standing guard like sentinels. Being a SEAL's wife meant living with silence, absence, and questions never answered. Nathan would vanish for months, return with new scars and unspoken nightmares. "I wish I could tell you everything," he would murmur, brushing her cheek. "But know this, you're why I fight to come home." It was during one of his rare stretches stateside, nursing a torn ligament, that Nathan first took Emma to the range. "If I'm gone so much, I need to know you can protect yourself." What began as safety training became something more, a bond, a ritual. Nathan was patient, Emma gifted. "You're a natural," he whispered the day she hit her first bullseye. "Steady hands, sharp eyes, calm under pressure, that's what makes a sniper." For 3 years, whenever he was home, they trained together. He taught her everything: stance, breath, sight, trigger control. "Shooting isn't aggression," he'd say. "It's control, of body, of breath, of fear." Emma absorbed it all, finding peace in the discipline. Sometimes teammates joined them. "Boss never shuts up about you," Michael Reeves once teased. "Says you're better than half the guys he's trained." Their last session was 2 days before Nathan's final mission. He barely fired, choosing instead to watch her. "Promise me something," he whispered. "Promise you'll keep practicing, even if I'm not here." She had promised, never guessing the weight of his words. After his death, Emma abandoned the range. Nathan's guns stayed locked away. She moved to Boston, burying herself in accounting work where no one knew her as the widow of a fallen SEAL. Until last week. A package arrived from Michael Reeves, a day pass to the Elite Shooters Club, and a note. "Nathan would want you to keep your promise. 3 years is long enough to grieve alone. Come back to the living, Emma." Now standing inside the Elite Shooters Club with Blake Radcliffe's challenge hanging in the air, Emma felt something stirred deep within her, a spark of the woman she had been before grief hollowed her out. She lifted the Glock, and muscle memory took command. The world shrank to 3 points: herself, the weapon, and the target. Emma drew a breath, held it, then released halfway before squeezing the trigger. The shot cracked clean across the silent range. The mechanical hum of the target retrieval system suddenly seemed unnaturally loud. Blake's smirk remained, but unease flickered as he noted Emma's flawless stance. The paper target crept forward, each click of the machine stretching suspense. When it arrived, a single perfect hole marked the bullseye's center. Silence followed, heavy and absolute. Blake's entourage stared, stunned. Emma calmly set the Glock on the counter, her face unreadable. Blake snatched the target, studying it with suspicion. "Beginner's luck," he snapped. "Anyone can get lucky once." Rebecca Johnson stepped forward, her professional mask slipping to reveal genuine respect. "That was exceptional, miss." "Emma Miller," she replied quietly. Rebecca nodded with an apologetic smile. "Miss Miller, perhaps you'd like to try our advanced range. Clearly, you're no beginner." Before Emma could answer, Blake cut in. "Hold on. One shot doesn't make her a shooter. Let's see if she can do it again, with real stakes." A murmur ran through the spectators, now a sizable crowd. Blake pulled a checkbook from his jacket. $50,000. Hit 3 bullseyes in a row at 75 yards, and it's yours. Miss even one, admit publicly you cheated, and leave. Senator Williams, one of the club's senior members, touched Blake's shoulder. "Blake, perhaps this isn't the time." Blake shrugged him off. "What's wrong? Afraid her little trick won't work 3 times in a row?" Emma considered walking away. She had come only to honor Nathan's memory, not to perform for the wealthy. But Blake's arrogance awoke something inside her, a fire, not for herself, but for every person ever dismissed as unworthy. "I'll take your challenge," she said softly. "On one condition: if I win, the $50,000 goes to the Veteran Support Foundation." Blake hesitated, then sneered. "Fine. Not like you'll win anyway." As Emma walked to the 75-yard line, Rebecca approached, voice low. "Miss Miller, you should know, Mr. Radcliffe holds the club record at this distance. No one's beaten him in 5 years." Emma gave a small nod. "Thank you, Miss Johnson. But I'll be fine." Rebecca studied her, struck by the quiet certainty radiating from this woman who looked so ordinary. Blake raised his voice, playing to the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to witness either the most impressive fluke in shooting history, or the most humiliating failure. 3 bullseyes at 75 yards, with a standard handgun. Impossible for an amateur." Emma loaded a fresh magazine, every motion controlled and steady. Nathan's words echoed in her mind, when pressure mounts, fall back on training. Let your body remember what your mind forgets. The range fell silent. Her first shot took a moment longer, adjusting for the distance. The crack rang out, the bullet landing dead center. Blake's jaw tightened. The second came quicker, Emma shifting her stance minutely. Another bullseye. Before the third, her thumb brushed her wedding band. She twisted it once, feeling Nathan's presence as if he stood beside her. The final shot split the air, and struck center again. Blake's face drained of color. Rebecca retrieved the targets and displayed them openly. 3 perfect bullseyes. There was no doubt. "Congratulations, Ms. Miller," Rebecca said, unable to hide her admiration. "That was remarkable." Blake snatched the targets, desperation sharpening his voice. "Impossible. No one shoots like this. She rigged something." Emma's voice carried steel. "We had an agreement, Mr. Radcliffe." "Agreement with a cheater," Blake barked. "I'm not paying $50,000 for a trick." "Mr. Radcliffe," Rebecca said firmly. Dozens of members witnessed this, including Senator Williams. The shots were legitimate. Blake rounded on her, jabbing a finger at her face. "Know your place, Rebecca. One word from me to the board and you're finished here." The threat silenced her, though her eyes hardened. Emma watched, calm but resolute. "If you're accusing me of cheating, perhaps we should discuss it privately." Blake misread her. "Private, so you can weasel out?" "No. We settle this here." He turned to the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, I propose a real challenge. 1 week from today. A formal competition. 10 stations, varying distances, club-provided weapons. Me against our mystery sharpshooter." Emma felt the weight of what she had stepped into. She hadn't come for attention, but retreating wasn't an option now. "I accept," she said softly. "Same terms. If I win, the Veteran Support Foundation receives the money." Blake's smile was cold. "Deal. And when I win, you'll confess your trick to everyone." As the crowd dispersed, Rebecca approached again. "That was either brave or foolish. Blake doesn't lose gracefully, and he has powerful allies." Emma, the adrenaline fading, managed a weary smile. "I didn't come here for trouble. I just came to practice." Rebecca studied her carefully. "Yet you shoot like a professional. Who are you really, Emma Miller?" Emma gathered her things. "Just someone keeping a promise," she whispered. But Blake was already on the phone, ordering his assistant to dig into Emma Miller's life. His voice trembled, not just with rage, but with fear. Because he had recognized something others had missed, the unmistakable mark of military training. By nightfall, word of the confrontation was spreading fast through Boston's elite circles. By evening, Blake Radcliffe was drowning in messages, from friends, rivals, even journalists, demanding details about the mysterious woman who had dared challenge him. Sitting in his penthouse overlooking the Charles River, he swirled aged scotch in a crystal tumbler, his usual post-victory ritual now repurposed to calm rattled nerves. Jessica Thompson, his girlfriend, lounged nearby, scrolling through her phone with a deepening frown. "They're calling her the unknown marksman," she said. Someone posted a blurry video of her last shot. "It's already viral." Blake downed his drink. One lucky day doesn't make her a shooter. By next week, everyone will know she's a fraud. Jessica's gaze lifted, unusually serious. "Blake, those weren't lucky shots. I've watched you compete for years. She's good. Really good." The sharp ring of his phone cut the tension. Blake glanced at the caller ID, instantly straightening. His investigator. "Tell me you found something," he demanded. The voice on the line was cautious. "Not much, Mr. Radcliffe. Emma Miller, 35. Senior accountant at Meridian Financial. Moved to Boston from Virginia Beach 3 years ago. Clean record. Pays taxes. Keeps to herself. No social media, no competitive shooting history." Blake's frustration flared. "That's impossible. Nobody shoots like that without serious training. Dig deeper. He ended the call and began pacing the length of his penthouse. Who is she? Where did she learn to shoot like that? Jessica set her phone down, unease in her eyes. Blake, maybe it's time to let this go. Pay the charity. Call it an off day. He stopped dead, intensity radiating. This isn't about money. It's my reputation, my legacy. Across town, Emma sat at her small kitchen table, her phone buzzing with missed calls from Michael Reeves. The shooting community was tight-knit, especially among veterans. Michael would already know what had happened. She carried a cup of tea to her balcony, the day replaying in her mind. Regret stirred at having accepted Blake's challenge. The attention felt suffocating. Yet, beneath it all, she felt oddly freed, like something buried had awakened. Her phone buzzed again, this time with an unfamiliar number. She hesitated, then answered. Miss Miller. This is Rebecca Johnson, from the Elite Shooters Club. Emma tensed. Miss Johnson. What can I do for you? Rebecca's voice carried urgency. I shouldn't even be calling, but you should know, Blake has people digging into your past. He's convinced you cheated. Emma closed her eyes. Not surprising. Just disappointing. Listen, Rebecca continued, voice dropping. I don't know who you are or where you learned to shoot like that. But Blake has influence in this city. His family practically owns half of Boston. If he feels threatened, he can make life difficult. Emma heard the genuine concern. But years as a SEAL's wife had sharpened her sense of real versus manufactured threats. I'll be careful, she promised. But I'll honor the agreement. After the call, Emma opened a wooden box containing Nathan's medals, his letters, their wedding photo. Beneath the folded flag lay his logbook, a precise record of training sessions and missions. She flipped through pages until she found his notes about her. Emma, 50 yards, 9 out of 10 bullseyes. Natural talent. Better than most recruits. The next morning, for the first time in 3 years, Emma called in sick. Instead of going to work, she drove to a distant public range, far from the eyes of Boston's elite. For 8 hours, she drilled relentlessly, replaying Nathan's teachings. Every shot was a conversation with his memory, a promise kept, a tether across death's divide. That evening, a text from Rebecca arrived. Blake requested rule changes. 10 different firearms at varying distances. Board approved. Emma understood immediately. Blake was reshaping the contest to exploit his breadth of experience. A calculated move to expose her limits. Her reply was simple. Thank you. No changes needed on my end. In his penthouse, Blake received word of her response with satisfaction. Perfect, he told Jessica. 10 stations. 10 different firearms. No way she matches me across the board. Jessica carefully set down her glass. And if she does? Blake's smile was cold. She won't. But if by some miracle she comes close, I've arranged insurance. The day before the competition, Michael Reeves appeared at Emma's door unannounced. You couldn't return a call, he grumbled, though concern softened his eyes. Emma let him in, relieved by his presence. I've been busy, she admitted. Shooting manuals lay scattered across her table. Michael glanced at them, then back at her. I've heard the whole community's buzzing about you and Radcliffe. They sat opposite each other at the kitchen table. Michael leaned in. Nathan would be proud. Not just of your shooting, of you stepping back into the world. Emma blinked back sudden tears. I don't know if that's what I'm doing. This wasn't supposed to happen. Michael nodded slowly. The best battles rarely are. But sometimes, they're exactly what we need. He reached across, briefly covering her hand with his. You're not alone. I've made some calls. You'll have friends in the crowd tomorrow. At the door, he turned back. One more thing, watch Radcliffe. A man like that, with money and power, is not used to losing. He won't take it well if he does. Nathan would want you watching your 6. Emma managed a small nod, grateful for both the warning and the military reminder. I will. And Michael, Thank you. For the pass. For everything. His smile was warm. Just keeping a promise to a brother. We all know the Ghost's reputation. Commander Wilson gestured toward the range. Heard you might want some pointers on the Macmillan TAC 3838. I've logged plenty of hours with that rifle. For the next 4 hours, he guided Emma through the rifle's nuances. Nathan trained you well with handguns, Wilson observed as she strung together a series of precise shots. You've got his patience, his breathing discipline. This isn't so different, just magnified. Trust what you know. By early afternoon, Emma was striking distant targets that would have seemed unreachable just days ago. As they packed up, Wilson handed her a slim notebook. Nathan's distance calculations and wind adjustments. His own formulas. Might help tomorrow. Emma accepted it reverently. Thank you, Commander. But why help me? You don't even know me. His expression softened. When you lose a brother in the teams, you look after what mattered to him. Nathan spoke of you often, how proud he was of your progress, your calm hands. Said you had steadier nerves than most recruits. As Wilson departed, Emma realized her challenge had become more than personal. This wasn't just about her versus Blake. It was privilege against service, flamboyant wealth against quiet excellence, ego against legacy. That evening in his penthouse, Blake received the final confirmation. Emma was Nathan Miller's widow. Each new detail, Nathan's decorated service record, his reputation in the SEALs, the mission that claimed his life, eroded Blake's confidence. He poured another drink, brushing off Jessica's worried glance. It doesn't change anything, he muttered. Experience beats sentiment every time. Blake, Jessica pressed, maybe you should reconsider. Pay the charity. Cancel this match. It's getting complicated. He slammed his glass down. Cancel? And admit I'm afraid of her? No. Tomorrow happens exactly as planned. Dialing a number, his tone hardened. It's Blake. Everything's set for tomorrow. The conversation was short. When he hung up, Jessica was watching him closely. What was that about? She asked. Blake's smile was cold. Just ensuring a level playing field, my dear. Nothing more. The next morning, the Elite Shooters Club buzzed like never before. What was meant to be a private duel had become a high-profile spectacle, the board throwing open its doors to the press and public. Rebecca Johnson oversaw the setup, her sharp eyes catching subtle equipment inconsistencies, minor adjustments that would hinder anyone unfamiliar with the firearms. Emma arrived simply dressed, carrying only Nathan's notebook in a small duffel. Rebecca pulled her aside. I checked everything. Some irregularities. Nothing I can officially flag, but they give an edge to anyone with inside knowledge. Emma nodded. Thank you. I'll manage. Blake swept in with sponsors and entourage, logos blazing. His smile was practiced. Miss Miller. Hope you slept well. His emphasis on her name revealed what he'd discovered. The pressure here can be overwhelming for the inexperienced. No shame in bowing out. Emma's gaze was steady. I'll be fine, Mr. Radcliffe. My husband taught me how to handle pressure. The arena resembled a stadium. Digital displays tracked scores as 3 range masters officiated. Emma spotted men with unmistakable military bearing in the crowd, Michael Reeves among them. His subtle nod fortified her resolve. From the first stations, Blake's flawless technique reflected years of competition. Emma's style was quieter, more deliberate, an economy of motion between shots that radiated discipline. By the 4th station, Blake held a slim lead. At the 5th, Emma noticed the tampered trigger on the SIG Sauer, heavier than standard. Nathan's words echoed, equipment fails. Conditions change. Adapt and overcome. She adjusted, matching Blake's score despite the handicap. As the event unfolded, patterns emerged. Blake excelled with polished competition firearms. Emma shone with consistency across all platforms, especially the military-grade weapons. By the 8th station, Blake's lead had shrunk to almost nothing. The crowd rallied behind Emma's calm precision, her understated confidence eclipsing Blake's showmanship. Before the 9th station, Blake approached her. "Impressive, Mrs. Miller. Your husband would be proud. The ghost's techniques are distinctive. I did my homework." Emma's hands stilled briefly at the deliberate mention of Nathan's call sign. But her voice was steady. "Then you know he valued integrity above all else, Mr. Radcliffe. Something for you to remember as we finish this competition." They've already moved to revoke Mr. Radcliffe's championship records. Harrison then surprised Emma with an unexpected proposal. "Our foundation has been developing a marksmanship program for veterans struggling with reintegration. Shooting sports have shown powerful therapeutic benefits. We would be honored if you'd consider taking a role in this initiative." 3 days later, Emma reviewed the settlement offer from Blake's legal team, a $100,000 donation to the foundation, twice the original amount, a formal public apology, and a private meeting before any announcement was made. That meeting took place in a neutral conference room. Blake arrived with his attorney, his trademark swagger diminished, trading designer labels for a conservative suit. "Mrs. Miller, I owe you an apology. The truth is, I built my entire identity around being the best. When you threatened that, I reacted badly, criminally." His rehearsed statement faltered into something more genuine. "I've never faced someone who shoots for reasons beyond trophies or recognition. It shook me." Emma studied him. "Mr. Radcliffe, I didn't enter that competition to unsettle anyone. I was keeping a promise to my husband. But your actions dishonored both the sport you claim to respect and the charity you pledged to support." Blake nodded, real shame flickering in his expression. "That's why I've increased the donation and accepted the 3-year suspension." The settlement was signed. As they stood to leave, Blake extended his hand. "For what it's worth, you're the finest shooter I've ever faced. Your husband taught you well." Emma shook his hand briefly. "He would have said I was already a good student. Sometimes the right teacher just helps us see what's already there." 2 weeks later, Emma stood at the new training range inside the Veteran Support Foundation's Rehabilitation Center, funded by Blake's donation and industry partners. Her first class consisted of 6 veterans, each carrying visible and invisible scars. "Good morning," she began, her voice steadier than it had been in years. "My name is Emma Miller. I'm not a soldier or a champion, just someone who learned that sometimes the steadiest hands belong to those who've endured the hardest shaking. Today, we start with the basics: how to stand, how to breathe, how to focus." 6 months later, at the Foundation's fundraiser, Emma addressed the audience. "A year ago, I walked into a shooting range for the first time in 3 years, keeping a promise to my late husband. I thought I'd reconnect with the skill he gave me, then return to my quiet life. Instead, I found myself in a confrontation that became the foundation of this program, and this community we're building together." When the annual Nathan Ghost Miller Excellence in Marksmanship Scholarship was announced, honoring veterans pursuing careers in shooting instruction, Emma felt tears sting her eyes. The first recipient, a former Army Ranger overcoming severe injuries, accepted the award. Emma twisted her wedding ring one last time. "This is for you, Nathan, for everything you taught me about standing my ground." Her greatest victory wasn't defeating a champion who underestimated her, but finding her way back to life, rebuilding a future that honored both memory and hope. For those who witnessed her journey, from being dismissed at the Elite Shooters Club to leading a foundation, one lesson stood clear: never underestimate the quiet ones. Behind silence may lie determination forged in adversity, skills refined through patience, and values rooted in experiences others can't comprehend. And if you're ever overlooked, remember Emma Miller's journey, from invisible to essential. Emma's days soon filled with structure she hadn't known since Nathan's passing. Morning classes at the range, afternoons reviewing curriculum, evenings answering letters from veterans who wanted to join the program. The work was demanding, but for the first time in years, her grief was accompanied by purpose. One evening after training, Harrison approached her with news. "The Foundation Board wants you to consider a permanent director role for the Marksmanship Initiative. It's grown faster than anyone expected. Manufacturers are offering sponsorships. Even the Department of Veterans Affairs has expressed interest." Emma hesitated. The idea of leading something so public felt daunting. "I'm not sure I'm ready for that kind of responsibility," she admitted. Harrison smiled. "You already are. You've built trust in a community that doesn't give it easily. That's leadership." The following month, Emma attended a regional veterans conference where her class of 6 had expanded to nearly 50 participants across 3 states. As she watched the veterans demonstrate skills they'd reclaimed, confidence in posture, focus in breathing, steadiness in aim, she felt Nathan's presence as if he was standing just behind her, proud and quiet. After her keynote, a young Marine approached. "Mrs. Miller, I was at your first class. Back then, I could barely hold a rifle without shaking. Yesterday, I qualified as an instructor. You gave me my life back." His voice cracked, and Emma found herself gripping his shoulder, too moved for words. That night, alone in her hotel room, Emma wrote in her journal, "Perhaps healing isn't about forgetting loss but about carrying it into something greater. Nathan's lessons didn't end with me, they're living in each of them now." The following morning, headlines announced that Emma Miller had been nominated for the National Service Award for her contribution to veteran rehabilitation. For a woman who once believed her world had ended, the recognition felt surreal. Yet as she prepared her next lesson plan, she knew awards weren't the goal. The goal was steady hands, hands that had known shaking, but chose to build again.